Discipline is the great multiplier because it takes the smallest actions and turns them into the greatest rewards over time. Every successful person understands that discipline is not a personality trait, it is a decision you make every single day, especially on the days when you don't feel like making it. Money follows the people who can govern themselves, who can resist the easy path, who can say no to distractions and yes to their future. When you build discipline into your life, you begin to create a rhythm that success can trust and grow upon. Most people wait for motivation, but discipline is what shows up even when motivation has already left the room. Jim Rohn used to say that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and that bridge must be walked daily. You can't build wealth on inconsistency, and you can't build a future on excuses. But the moment you decide that your habits are more important than your feelings, your life begins to shift. Discipline becomes the silent partner that works with you long after the world stops clapping. It is the force that quietly shapes the life others will later call luck. Discipline is also the key to mastering your time because if you don't manage your time, life will manage it for you. Time is the only resource that cannot be bought, borrowed, or replaced, and how you use it determines how far you will go. People who rise to greatness do so because they structure their days around their values instead of their emotions. They eliminate the hours wasted in entertainment, gossip, and procrastination, and they replace those hours with learning, practicing, and building. Money doesn't chase people who treat time casually. It chases those who treat time like a serious investment. When you use each hour intentionally, you begin to separate yourself from the masses who live on autopilot. Every disciplined hour becomes a brick in the foundation of your future success. Your schedule becomes your protection, your roadmap, and your source of momentum. And the more you honor your time, the more your time begins to honor you with results. That is how discipline transforms from a burden into a blessing. Another reason discipline is powerful is because it strengthens your character, and character is what makes success sustainable. Many people can achieve success for a moment, but only those with character can maintain it for a lifetime. Discipline teaches you patience, respect for the process, and the ability to delay gratification, all qualities that money naturally gravitates toward. When you discipline yourself to keep promises to your goals, you begin to trust yourself at a higher level. That trust becomes confidence, and that confidence becomes courage, and that courage becomes action. And action, taken consistently, becomes the engine that moves your life forward. People without discipline collapse under pressure, but those who have trained themselves to stay steady can weather challenges and still keep moving. Character attracts opportunities because people see reliability, strength, and commitment in you. When you grow your character through discipline, you become the kind of person success feels safe investing in. And once success trusts you, it begins to show up more frequently, more generously, and more predictably. Discipline also rewires the mind because every consistent action changes the way you think, behave, and respond to life. When you do something repeatedly, you form a habit. When you sustain the habit, you develop a mindset. When the mindset becomes strong, you create an identity. An identity is what determines destiny. A disciplined person wakes up thinking differently from someone who simply hopes for success. They think in terms of responsibility, choices, direction, and progress. They don't sit around waiting for better opportunities. They create opportunities by being prepared and focused. And as their mind sharpens, their world expands. A disciplined mind attracts ideas, clarity, creativity, and solutions that an undisciplined mind simply cannot see. You begin to see the world not as a place of obstacles, but as a place of potential. And when your mind becomes disciplined, your decisions follow. You stop negotiating with your excuses, and you start negotiating with your future. Discipline is also the generator of momentum, and momentum is one of the greatest advantages in life. Once you start doing the right things consistently, staying on track becomes easier, faster, and more natural. Momentum creates energy, and energy creates results, and results create belief. And belief is the fuel that keeps you going even when the road gets tough. When you have momentum, small wins turn into bigger wins, and those bigger wins create breakthroughs. But momentum cannot be built without discipline, because the first steps are always the hardest. Those early days feel lonely, boring, and unrewarded. But with every action you repeat, you build strength, skill, and confidence. Slowly, your habits solidify, your routine becomes smoother, and your results begin to show. And once momentum is activated, even challenges can't stop you. You become unstoppable because discipline has already built the engine that carries you forward. And money, like everything else in life, is drawn to people who are moving with purpose and consistency. Your income is a direct reflection of the value you bring to the marketplace. And this is a principle Jim Rohn repeated endlessly because it never stops being true. Money doesn't flow to those who merely show up, it flows to those who grow up, those who decide to rise above average effort and average thinking. When you invest in your skills, your mindset, and your ability to solve problems, you become more attractive to the opportunities around you. Most people want a higher income without becoming a higher quality individual, but the marketplace does not reward desire, it rewards development. The moment you begin to sharpen your craft, study your field, and polish your abilities, you step into a higher category of value. You start seeing things others miss, and you start performing at a level others can't compete with. And suddenly the conversation shifts from how do I get paid more to how can I offer more. The more value you provide, the more inevitable your income becomes, because money is simply a reward for the service you render and the problems you solve. This is why you must never stop becoming better, never stop learning, and never stop increasing your worth. The process of increasing your value begins with the decision to become a lifelong learner, because the moment you stop learning is the moment your growth begins to shrink. The world is changing faster than ever, and those who refuse to grow get left behind while those who embrace learning rise naturally to the top. Every new skill you develop becomes a tool that increases your earning power. Every book you read adds wisdom, every mentor you listen to adds direction, and every course you take adds capability. When you learn more, you earn more, not because magic happens, but because your improved knowledge changes the way you think, work, and contribute. People with low value rely on luck, but people who increase their value rely on preparation. They show up sharper, think faster, execute better, and handle challenges with clarity. They become the people employers want to hire, clients want to pay, and partners want to build with. And when the market sees someone constantly improving, it responds with opportunities, promotions, and income. Your value grows with every new piece of knowledge you acquire, and so does your financial potential. Increasing your value also means improving your ability to solve problems, because in every industry, the highest paid individuals are the ones who remove the biggest obstacles. The marketplace pays for solutions, and the bigger the solution you can provide, the bigger the paycheck you can command. When you develop the discipline to stay calm under pressure, to think creatively, to communicate effectively, and to deliver consistent results, you rise above the average. Most people avoid problems. Valuable people run toward them with confidence and clarity. They understand that every problem is an opportunity dressed in inconvenience, and they train themselves to see beyond the difficulty. When you become the person who can turn chaos into order, confusion into clarity, and challenges into progress, you make yourself impossible to ignore. The market doesn't choose based on age, background, or education. It chooses based on value. And problem solvers are always valuable. The more problems you can solve, the faster money finds its way to you, because everything you fix creates impact, and impact is the currency the marketplace trusts most. Another way to increase your value is by refining your communication skills, because no matter how talented you are, if you cannot express your ideas clearly, confidently, and effectively, your value remains hidden. Communication is the gateway to influence, leadership, relationships, and opportunity. Jim Rohn often said that words can either build your future or build your frustration, depending on how you use them. People with strong communication skills move ahead faster because they know how to present their ideas, persuade others, and build trust. They know how to articulate solutions, negotiate wisely, and express value in a way the marketplace understands. Poor communicators rely on talent alone, but great communicators multiply their talent through connection. Every powerful leader, every successful entrepreneur, every rising professional eventually realizes that communication is one of the highest income skills in the world. When you can communicate your ideas effectively, your value becomes visible. And when your value becomes visible, your income begins to rise naturally. You don't chase opportunities, They arrive because people trust your clarity, your confidence, and your ability to connect. Increasing your value also requires improving your character, because while skills may open the door, character determines how long you stay inside. The marketplace may admire intelligence, but it rewards integrity, discipline, and reliability. When people trust your word, they trust your work. When they trust your work, they trust your value. When they trust your value, they trust you with greater responsibility, and with greater responsibility comes greater income. Character is built through small decisions, showing up on time, keeping promises, finishing what you start, and treating people with respect. These may seem simple, but they are powerful multipliers of your value. People with strong character stand out in a world full of shortcuts, excuses, and inconsistency. They become the people others rely on when the stakes are high. And as your reputation for reliability grows, your value increases in the eyes of the marketplace. You become someone people can depend on, someone people want to work with, someone people want to invest in. And when you become that person, money does not need to be chased. It begins to chase you. Taking intentional action means deciding that your life will no longer be guided by chance, moods, or convenience, but by purpose, clarity, and direction. Most people wake up with hopes, but intentional people wake up with plans, and that single difference changes everything about their results. When you move with intention, the quality of your actions improves because you are no longer reacting to the world. You're creating your path through it. Every step you take becomes a deliberate investment into your future instead of a random movement that leads nowhere. Intentional action forces you to ask yourself what matters, what doesn't, and what deserves your time, energy, and attention. It pushes you to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start using the moment you have, because progress never requires perfection, only purpose. The people who succeed are not always the most talented or the most educated. They are the ones who consistently act on their goals with clarity and conviction. And when you begin to act intentionally, life begins to respond differently, because action reveals opportunities that staying still never allows you to see. You start to realize that life isn't happening to you. You're happening to life, and that is where real transformation begins. Intentional action also demands that you stop living in the land of someday, because someday is the place where dreams go to die. When you want to achieve something meaningful, the only time that truly belongs to you is now, and waiting only steals momentum from your future. Most people talk themselves out of greatness because they wait for motivation, confidence, or certainty, not realizing that these things come after you take action, not before. When you move with intention, you silence the excuses that have kept you stuck, and you begin to build a pattern of progress that strengthens your belief in yourself. You learn that small actions are not insignificant. They are the seeds that eventually grow into the results you desire. Each step forward builds courage, and courage builds more action, and more action builds momentum. And once momentum begins to form, you become harder to stop because you've already broken the barrier of hesitation. Intentional action isn't about rushing. It's about moving forward with purpose, clarity, and confidence, knowing that every small effort counts. Even on days when you don't feel like moving, intention guides you, reminding you that discipline will take you further than emotion ever will. When you act intentionally, you stop mistaking activity for productivity, because intentional people don't just stay busy, they stay effective. They choose actions that move the needle instead of actions that simply keep them occupied. Most people waste time on habits that feel comfortable but change nothing, and then wonder why progress never arrives. Intentional action forces you to separate the important from the trivial, the meaningful from the meaningless, the urgent from the unnecessary. You begin to focus on the tasks that carry the most return, learning new skills, building relationships, creating opportunities, and taking steps that push your life forward. Intentional people don't rely on luck because they create their own opportunities through consistent and strategic effort. They build plans, follow through, adjust when needed, and keep moving with direction. And because their actions are purposeful, their results become predictable. You start seeing life as a series of doors that open only when you knock, and intentional action ensures that you keep knocking until the right door opens. This kind of clarity turns chaos into order, confusion into understanding, and dreams into practical, achievable steps. Another powerful benefit of intentional action is that it shapes your identity because the more you do something with purpose, the more it becomes a part of who you are. When you consistently act on your goals, you start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who takes responsibility, someone who moves forward even when things are difficult. And identity is everything, because you will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. If you believe you're average, you'll act like it. If you believe you're capable, your actions will reflect that belief. Intentional action sharpens your focus, strengthens your habits, and transforms your mindset from passive to powerful. It teaches you to honor your commitments to yourself, which is one of the highest forms of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, the world begins to respect you too. People start seeing you as reliable, consistent, trustworthy, and disciplined. This identity shift changes the way you think, the way you speak, the way you work, and ultimately the results you produce. You no longer ask, "Can I?" but instead, "How will I?" Because you've trained your mind to seek solutions instead of excuses. Intentional action also creates opportunities, because opportunities rarely appear to those who stand still. The world rewards movement. Doors open when you knock, answers appear when you ask, and possibilities expand when you take steps forward. Most breakthroughs come disguised as small actions: the message you send, the meeting you schedule, the skill you practice, the risk you take. Every intentional move creates a ripple effect that leads to new connections, new ideas, and new paths that would never reveal themselves to someone who refuses to act. When you act intentionally, you attract situations that align with your goals because your energy, your effort, and your behavior broadcast your direction. The universe responds to clarity, people respond to confidence, opportunities respond to movement. Intentional action positions you to be in the right place at the right time, not because of luck, but because consistency puts you there. And when people see you moving with purpose, they want to support you, collaborate with you, and invest in you. Life begins to reward the person who chooses action over excuses, progress over perfection, and direction over distraction, because the world always bends in favor of those who move with intention and purpose. The people you surround yourself with shape the limits of your thinking, the quality of your decisions, and the direction of your life, whether you realize it or not. When Jim Rohn said you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, he wasn't giving a motivational slogan. He was describing a law of human behavior. Your environment silently influences your standards of effort, discipline, ambition, and even self-belief. If you spend time with people who complain, you slowly begin to complain. If you spend time with people who strive, you begin to strive. The mind adapts to the energy it absorbs. And if that energy is small, negative, or stagnant, your future begins to shrink without you noticing. But when you surround yourself with those who are growing, learning, building, and pushing forward, something inside you rises to match their level. You begin to think bigger, act bolder, and dream stronger because you see what's possible through their behavior. Your circle becomes your mirror, reflecting either your limitations or your potential. And once you understand this, you realize that choosing the right people is one of the most valuable decisions you will ever make. Every successful person can point to someone who helped elevate their thinking, a mentor, a friend, a leader, or a community that challenged them to rise above their excuses. Growth-minded people don't just inspire you, they stretch you. They ask better questions, they expect more from themselves, and they naturally expect more from the people around them. Being around them makes laziness uncomfortable and progress inevitable. Their conversations are different. They talk about goals, strategies, solutions, possibilities, and improvement, rather than gossip or negativity. When you hear people discussing books they're reading, skills they're learning, and plans they're executing, your mind starts to align with that frequency. You begin to crave growth the way they crave it, because human beings are wired to match the energy of their group. And if you've ever wondered why your life feels stuck, sometimes the first place to look is the room you're sitting in and the voices you allow to influence you. Change the room and your mindset follows. Change your mindset and your life follows. The right circle forces you to level up just by being in their presence. Surrounding yourself with growth-minded people also strengthens your discipline, because disciplined individuals hold you accountable without even trying. When you observe someone waking up early, working consistently, studying their craft, and pursuing their goals with seriousness, you begin to feel a pull to match that energy. Their habits challenge your excuses, not through judgment, but through example. You naturally want to keep up, rise up, and show up better because their standard becomes your new baseline. Accountability doesn't always require someone telling you what to do. Sometimes it's simply being around people who refuse to settle for less than their potential. Their progress becomes a silent reminder that your dreams also require effort. And when you share your goals with people who care about growth, they don't let you shrink back into comfort. They ask about your progress, not out of pressure, but out of belief. They see your potential and expect you to honor it. That kind of environment is rare, powerful, and transformative. It pushes you toward the life you want, even on the days when motivation fades. A strong circle keeps you disciplined because excellence becomes normal, not extraordinary. Another powerful aspect of surrounding yourself with growth-minded people is the way they expand your vision. When you stay around the same thinking for too long, your dreams begin to shrink to fit the expectations of your environment. People who lack vision will convince you to dream small because small dreams feel safe to them. But people with vision expand your imagination. They show you new paths, new opportunities, and new possibilities that you never would have seen on your own. They speak in terms of why not, instead of what if it fails. They ask bigger questions, take bolder steps, and show you that the limits you believed in were never real. When you see someone you know achieving great things, it breaks your mental barriers and makes your goals feel more reachable. Vision spreads through proximity, and when your circle dreams bigger, you naturally begin dreaming bigger too. Your belief grows because you're surrounded by examples of what's possible. And belief is the foundation of achievement. Once your vision expands, your actions expand, and once your actions expand, your results begin to multiply. Choosing the right people also protects your energy because not everyone who stands beside you is rooting for your success. Some people drain your drive without you noticing, through negativity, fear, laziness, or constant doubt. When you stay around people who talk small, live small, and think small, your future begins to shrink to match their comfort zone. Their doubts become your doubts, their fears become your fears, and their limitations become your invisible cage. But when you surround yourself with people who are moving forward, you inherit their courage, their momentum, and their confidence. Their belief strengthens yours, their effort inspires yours, and their progress fuels your determination. Your circle becomes a source of energy instead of a source of exhaustion. You begin to speak differently, think differently, and act differently because you're no longer battling the weight of negative influence. The right people lift you, encourage you, challenge you, support you, and remind you of who you are becoming. They make growth feel natural, ambition feel normal, and success feel achievable. And when your circle is aligned with your goals, the journey becomes not just possible, but inevitable.